So I think we're into our big boom kind of week ahead. This is a forecast taking us from Monday the 26th right the way through to Sunday the 1st of February. And yeah, when I say this big boom, I'm not trying to talk us into a reality where everything is going wrong. But what I'm really seeing is we're on the threshold of something. And like all good thresholds, we're meant to step through a doorway and like close the door behind us, and that's what's going on Monday the 26th, when we have Neptune going into the sign of Aries for good, and Neptune's going to be there now until 2038. So this is a pretty big step. The last time this happened was the day after the American Civil War started. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa, and here I try to explore astrology in such a way that we understand what's going on around us, but that we have a prompt, and we also have a choice. So I've got a kind of representation of what's going on in the week ahead, and also some slides showing, where in particular you'll see the moon flowing in this week ahead. Let's just go backwards. So you can see how that is developing. So this is Monday. But overall, so like I said, Monday the 26th, we've got Neptune going into Aries. This is a big deal. It happens every 164 years. I recorded something last year, not with my actual voice, using an AI voice, because I'd actually lost my voice. But I recorded a forecast about my first thoughts about it. That's somewhere on my channel. Just search for Neptune. And I also am uploading some notes from a few nights ago, when in my community I sat and spoke about the transition from Neptune in Pisces going into Neptune in Aries. So if you are interested in that, I really do think there is a strong transition that we're going through. Neptune in Pisces is just so completely different to what we're stepping into. It is very much, we're shutting the door to something very big and very deep, and stepping into the unknown, which I think is one of the more confusing aspects of this. There's going to be a lot more I'm going to be sharing about this in due course. Tuesday the 27th, then we've got the moon going into the sign of Gemini, and then later on that day we've got Mars in an exact conjunction with Pluto. Now Mars, it takes I think 23 months to go all the way around the zodiac, so has got roughly a 2-year cycle. When Mars makes the conjunction to Pluto, the combination of these two planets is really dynamic, hence like the idea of a meteor falling in, this kind of high dynamic. Both have a theme of surviving and survivability, and they're both the joint rulers of Scorpio, according to whether you are a traditional or a modern day astrologer. But I consider both of them to have quite some influence over Scorpio. I think this is a very strong time for people with a strong Scorpio. If you've got Scorpio, sun, moon, or ascendant, having these two going into a conjunction, I think is restarting your health, like giving you a jump start into a new intense feeling of recreating your health and vitality. I mentioned this last week, actually, that we had a cazimi in Pluto, or a Pluto cazimi, just last week on Friday. So that was the sun in an exact conjunction with Pluto. That starts us on a cycle of power, that we're internalizing our power and we're coming into a new relationship with power. With Mars in a conjunction with Pluto, what we're really doing is experiencing power in our physical body. So it's different. It's different from the sun in a conjunction with Pluto, which is about our identity. How can I have masses of power right now? How can I play with power? This is really about how can I feel that power in my body. So if you've been feeling debilitated, this is a really good cycle to start something new on, and to reconsider what is going on inside your actual body. Now, I've mentioned body a few times already. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it's, I think whether you're connecting houses and signs, houses and signs are very different. However, the first house and also the first sign do share something in the energy of being first. The first house is very much about our identity. The sign of Aries, I think, is unashamedly themselves. There is this energy of, if I need something, I'm going to be completely open until I can experience that. I think the zodiac tells us a story of our age a little bit, the age of man. If you think of what babies do, they are signaling what they need all the time. If you've had a baby, or if you've been around babies, you'll know that they signal exactly what they need. Now, if an adult signaled what they needed in a way a baby would, we'd say, oh, have they no shame? Or, we'd guilt them up big style. But we don't do that to babies, because we can see that babies are absolutely fighting for their survival. They are letting their mums or caregivers or dads or whoever, sorry to put it in that order. I realize dads are very important, obviously. They will be calling, alerting their caregivers they're not comfortable. And so Aries do have this me first energy, and that's not an insult or I'm not trying to put you down or anything. If you have a strong Aries, we've all got Aries in our charts. And so the embodiment energy, I think, is really coming on strong in this week ahead, with Neptune going into Aries. It's been a long time we've not experienced Neptune in Aries. Well, a little bit last year for a few months, but now it's in, and it's going to be shifting us. And then the next day, Mars in a conjunction with Pluto. Mars is the ruler of Aries, and so there is this very strong masculine energy coming up, very authoritative energy. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We are definitely in for an interesting time of things. And with the moon moving into Gemini on that day as well, our emotions are flitting quickly from things. They're not dwelling on things, they're flitting from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another. So yeah, Tuesday is a high dynamic day. Now, as we go into Wednesday, we've got moon in a trine to Mars and Pluto. I've put in a little yoga stretch here. I think this is where we might allow our natural instincts of activity to come out. I think it's good to test our strength, to test our energy towards surviving, and think about defenses. And of course, if you want to have a defense of some sort or a boundary, the best boundary, the first boundary, really is our body, isn't it? So I do think we instinctively are testing our body, testing ourselves, and if anything is pushing up against us, I do think we're going to push back. So yeah, really strong first few days. And then we've got this lovely little sort of break day. I'm not even really mentioning what the moon's doing, like how the moon is connecting to different planets. But just as an overview, on Thursday, the moon is going into Cancer, which is softening things. We are coming into a softer connection with people, hopefully, where our loyalty and the strength of our relationship, the history that we might have had together, is important. And as such, we've got Mercury in a conjunction with Venus, which I think is really going to ramp up the connection to meet with people, to talk face to face, to really connect with somebody's eyes and their whole energy. It's very easy, especially with the moon in Gemini energy and this very strong Mars, Pluto, and more importantly, Neptune in Aries, this strong fire with air. We could really get out of our we could just let things run quite quickly and make assumptions. Whereas on Thursday, as the moon goes into the sign of Cancer, it's inviting us to slow down, connect into our real emotions, not to allow ourselves to get distracted. And then Mercury conjunct Venus is encouraging us to have really connected conversations, to relate to people, to find out, look, it looks like we're not actually getting on right now, or it looks like you're off doing this and I'm off doing that. It's actually true. This is a time for us to come back together a lot more. And so then on Friday, we've got this lovely moon trine North Node, which I think is very much about us getting back into that feeling of back on track. I think the trine to the North Node is reminding us of why we're here. And like I know when I connect in, funnily enough, the North Node is right on my moon right now. It does get you back into your purpose. It's asking you, why are you here? Like, are you are you really being the person that you came here to be? And so I think that's a big question we're asking on Friday. And on Saturday, I like, there is a feeling of ease. The moon in a conjunction with Jupiter, um, especially because it's also in the sign of Cancer and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. I think this is kind of saying, come on, let's get into that emotional ease. Let's continue with that flow. Let's enjoy being in our bodies a little bit. And then we're coming into Sunday, the full moon in Leo at 13 degrees 04. So it's a fiery moon, and it is a full moon. So we've got a pretty, it starts with a big kind of energy. And then as we're coming into Sunday, some of this tension is coming up. Now, if I just quickly flick through the charts and just have a quick look at some of the shapes that are arising this week, you might get an even better sense of what's coming. So Monday, obviously we've got Neptune going into Aries. One thing to not forget is Neptune is very, very close to Saturn. Saturn is also traveling in the same direction. So when Neptune hits Aries and goes into Aries, it is also very serious. It means business because Saturn is by his side. Saturn will be coming over in February on the 14th. And then on the 20th, they go exactly into a conjunction. Now, that doesn't happen very often. I think it's, off the top of my head, could be wrong, but I think it's every 33 years. This conjunction between these two is super potent. And yeah, if you've got planets around the end of Pisces, beginning of Aries, or if you've got a cusp, or if you've got something at the end of Scorpio, beginning of Sagittarius, or actually across the board, if you've got planets right at the end of a sign or right at the beginning of a sign, it's going to be picking up in one way or another this theme of Neptune and Saturn. If it's in a trine or a sextile, it's going to be bringing in possibly an easier change, a feeling of opportunity, a feeling of things are about to move. And maybe you don't actually have to move as hard as you think to be able to make that move. If you have something in one of the square signs, so for instance, if you've got something right at the end of Sagittarius or at the beginning of Capricorn, that would be in a square to where Saturn and Neptune are right now. Or, for instance, at the end of Virgo, beginning of Libra, or at the end of Gemini and into Cancer. This will be bringing in quite a strong change, and this is going to be challenging the very best part of you to come forwards. And so, one of the things I think is very apparent with Neptune is it dissolves our clarity at some level. It helps us think, and feel like Neptune has this almost boundless compassion. And in the sign of Pisces, it allowed us to be compassionate, and compassion soared. We started to understand people who are very different to us. Our levels of understanding really expanded beyond maybe what we're used to as human beings. And when Neptune goes into the sign of Aries, whereas Neptune in Pisces dithers quite a bit and takes a long time to get anything done, if anything at all, when Neptune goes into Aries, it's likely to feel something so strongly and then take action on that feeling. But it's not going to be reviewing whether its feeling is actually true. Now, given that Neptune is dissolving our reality a little bit, dissolving our clarity a little bit, especially if you've got something at the end of the mutable signs, or right at the beginning of the cardinal signs, you're going to be feeling such a rush and a push to move forwards on something. And yeah, the clarity might not quite be there. So I do think this is a very interesting time where we are pushing forwards, and we also need to ask ourselves a few times in a few different ways, how do I know that's exactly as I think it is, because the time to act feels like it is upon us. But Neptune is a deceiver, as well as a planet that can help us merge and connect. Neptune can really deceive us as well. So these are very interesting times. And as ever, I always think when a slow planet, well, any planet, when it moves into a new sign, it takes a while for it to establish itself. So initially, you might get the harder, tougher version of it, where people maybe make a mistake. We rush into things. Think of it a bit like what children do. Children learn by making mistakes, and then hopefully there's somebody good around them or helpful around them that can say, hey, I think I just saw you do that. Did you mean to do that? Did you think about the consequences? There is this thing that comes up over time where we learn that when we do things, there are consequences. And yet with this Neptune in Aries, I think the energy is going to be pushing us forwards. I'm not here saying don't do anything, because you are living your own lives, and absolutely the energy of Aries that's been activated in everyone right now is absolutely about us owning what's going on, taking action. It's a very Aries thing, and for us to feel very independent and single-minded. However, looking at how newly ingressed, i.e. planets that have just moved into a new sign, they are super strong, and then gradually it wears off. A bit like when you throw yourself into a new relationship. New relationships often start with a big bang, and it's all very exciting. A big bang, literally. Sorry. Things often start with a big bang, and we put all of our energy into it, and it's the be all and end all. And then over time, we start to realize, our partner, we've put them on a pedestal, and vice versa. And over time, we start to moderate. Things start to come back into a normal flow. And so that's the only thing to be aware of. If you're feeling really stirred right now, and you think this is how you're going to be for the rest of your life, the chances are what's stirring you right now will ease off over the next few weeks and few months. And again, it's not to say don't take action that feels very much in alignment with where you're going and what you're doing, and how your life feels like it needs to be. However, I just think this is a time when we could all rush in a particular way and later regret it. Just some thoughts there. And I'm not sharing those thoughts in a political way, by the way, and I know that they could absolutely be listened to and understood as me being political, and that's not my aim at all. If anything, this is mum advice. I'm thinking about how I might want to look after a close friend, or talk to somebody close to me. The place that you're in, and for me, I'm in the position of being a mum, and so I'm in a very nurturing part of my life. That's where this is coming from. It's coming from a good place for you to take or leave, whatever I'm suggesting there. Anyway, Tuesday, Mars conjunct Pluto. It's right down, it's in the sign of Aquarius. So this is the next thing to think about. Mars in a conjunction with Pluto. Yes, it's bringing these two energies together that are very much about vitality. At the same time that is happening, they're still very close to the sun. They're also in a conjunction with Mercury. So it's not just that you're feeling this vitality in your body and wanting to do something with it, but there is something linking it into your identity and into your spoken word. And, Venus is not, Venus is also, actually, by the time this happens, Mars will be at 3 degrees. So they will just almost be in a conjunction with Venus as well. So it's a very, very dynamic stellium. If you've got something in the early degrees of the fixed signs, this is absolutely going to be activating it. If you've got things in the early degrees of the air signs, this is going to be really motivating and going to be giving you lots of food for thought, and probably it's going to be moving that part of your chart along significantly. And I would say, if you know how to read your chart, or at least be able to pick your chart out and recognize where Aquarius is in your chart, then Look it up, see where Aquarius is, and see what house is highlighted by this. And if you don't know how to do that, check out my playlist, how like I can't remember what I've called it, but check out my playlist dedicated especially for learning about your chart. And I've got a free online course in my community. You can come and join me there as well and have a good look at that there. So wherever Aquarius is in your chart is going to be really pushing itself. It's going to be really going in a new direction. This is absolutely a step up in an area of your life, and you could really make a difference with this. So yeah, good luck with that one. Yeah, the moon trine. Yeah, so by the time we get to Wednesday 28th, there's this is really nice. When you see it laid out in a chart, you get to see that the moon is working with Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune, and also Mars and Pluto. This is a real power-packed day, really helping you move forwards and actually make a few quick decisions, and also to try something new. So I really like that. I think that's helpful. Mercury conjunct Venus is at 14 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. So you'll see that, this is still very much about where Aquarius is in your birth chart. So wherever Aquarius is, this is a day when you can connect with people, again, face to face. This is a nice feeling day. On this day as well, you'll see that the moon is also going to be connecting to Venus and Mercury. So that's also very beautiful. Friday, the moon is going to be going into early on. Is that right? Oh yeah, later on in the day on Friday, my top tip would be, that the moon is going to go into a trine with the North Node. So this is that feeling. You also notice the moon is advancing towards Jupiter, which is leading us into Saturday. So I think Friday into Saturday has nice feelings sort of embedded within it. Very, very helpful. And then Sunday and the full moon. Now this is actually the full moon chart itself, so that's why it appears that the moon has really just jumped a long way away. Yeah, so this full moon is wow, it's in opposition to Mercury, it's in opposition to Venus, it's obviously in opposition to the sun, because that's what defines it as a full moon. It's also in an opposition to Mars. So there is this very strong energy. Whatever, again, wherever that Aquarian energy is in your chart and the house it's in, this full moon is going to be challenging you in a very strong way. You know, over the course of this week, if you're starting to feel pressure building and up inside you, to me, it strikes me that Thursday, Friday, Saturday are really good days to connect with people, not just because it feels good, but to connect and to start to let off steam a little bit, to share, to open up, to not let things build up so that you feel like you're going to explode. Because leading up to this full moon, as we're going through a waxing moon phase, and we're right at the end of this moon phase, the moon gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the pressure seems to increase exponentially. And so I really do think, Friday into Saturday, you've got this, and on Thursday, when the moon is connecting to Venus and Mercury, we really do have this beautiful opportunity to let off steam and to learn about ourselves a lot more, and to share with people. We don't have to do everything alone. And maybe if we are to open up to people and sort of get into our absolute vulnerability and to trust, that we're all doing the best that we can, even if it doesn't look like it. I think that as we come up to this full moon, we should be in a much better place for it. So there's some thoughts for the week ahead. I really hope that's helpful to you. If you want to know more, I break this down on a day-by-day basis in my free community on the platform School. So it's www.skool.com. That's skool.com. And in fact, let me just quickly show you what it looks like as well. So if you were to join my school community, like I say, it's absolutely free to join. You'll see we've got quite an active timeline. And every like Monday to Friday, I'm posting forecasts, absolutely breaking down everything I've just spoken about, but a much deeper level. And as I break it down, I'm talking about all of the moon's movements and how the moon is connecting with different planets. And you can just click on the daily thread and it'll just take you straight to those, so then you don't get any other fluff. We've also got a classroom, and there's 4 free things in the classroom. So one is a place where there's some tools. This is my gentle orientation to learn about astrology. This is the absolute underlying bedrock of learning about your birth chart, from designing your birth chart to understanding all the components. Every other Wednesday, I've got a living moon session, which you're very welcome to join with free membership. And there's a place for all the live webinar sessions. So last week, in fact, you can have a look at it. Neptune moving into Pisces, there's a handout. There's also the video. There's also a course, this is for paid members, whereby I'm teaching astrology on a sign by, one sign a week, then one house a week, then one planet a week. And every week there's 2 lessons in the morning, 2 lessons in the afternoon. It's the same lessons, but to different time zones, and they're all live. So, hopefully there's a time when you can join. There's also a calendar as well, which I recommend you have a look at if you are interested. And this just shows you there's a lot on every week, and you can go into the future and see what's what. So there you go. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, just go over to skool.com, www.skool.com/feelgoodastrology, and I'll join you there. Anyway, have a fabulous week ahead and catch up with you all soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.